right now on News Channel 5.
A hurricane watch has been issued for the coasts of North and South Carolina as tropical storm force winds could approach that area as early as Wednesday night. We've got the latest on the tropics.
Don't take chances. There's no material thing in the world that's worth your life.
Schools are closed. Mandatory evacuations now in play. The situation on the East Coast as Hurricane Florence heads that way, and the local utility crews are ready to lend a hand.
Today marks 17 years since the devastating terror attacks on September 11th, but to many it feels like yesterday. How you can honor the victims and the fallen heroes.
Morning, everyone. We're going to talk much more about that. In the meantime, I think a lot of us, fair to say, are feeling a sigh of relief about Hurricane Florence, but you sympathize knowing what people to the north are about to go through.
This is a very strong storm, Glenn. Tell us what you've learned.
Well, and you think about a year ago, we were dealing with Irma, and those folks up there were sympathizing with us, and now we're looking at this. We've got three storms actually out in the Atlantic right now. We have Florence, Isaac, and Helene, but none of them are going to influence our weather except for Florence a little bit. We're going to discuss that more later this half hour. But here's the latest on Florence, a Category 4 hurricane with winds at 140 miles per hour, going through a little bit of a structural change right now as it replaces its eye. And big storms do that from time to time as one eye collapses and a new one develops. But it is expected to strengthen into close to a Category 5 hurricane by tomorrow. 150-mile-an-hour winds just 7 miles per hour away from being a Category 5, and then most likely making landfall as a Category 4 along the North or South Carolina coast. The cone is a little wider here. There's some uncertainty in the computer models about exactly where it's going to make landfall. There is a tendency for these storms to jiggle back and forth a little bit as they get closer to land, but a very powerful storm nonetheless, and then massive flooding expected for the days that follow as what's left of that storm just sits over the Carolinas and Virginia. On the radar right now, we got a couple of showers breezing on through Buckhead Ridge and Okeechobee, a few showers around Stewart and PGA Village, but rain chances are pretty low this morning. They're slightly higher this afternoon with a few showers and thunderstorms later today. By 9 to 10 o'clock this morning, we'll be in the low to mid 80s. We'll talk about temperatures across the area, and we'll have your city-by-city forecast in 5 minutes. Johan?
And Glenn, in the Lake Worth area, pilot Josh myself over 6th Avenue and I-95 checking out Boynton into Boca. And not too bad through the Palm Beach County area. A little bit of a slowdown here. We have a disabled vehicle, but that's right at the entrance ramp to 6th Avenue, not causing any heavy delays. Just be aware of the move over law. Traveling in from the Turnpike all the way from Vero Beach through the Port St. Lucie area, Boca into Broward, A-OK, and our side streets are up to speed for your Tuesday morning. That's how it looks up here in Chopper 5. I'm Johan Hoffand. Back to you.
The race to board up this morning before being forced to head out. That is what millions of people along the East Coast are dealing with as Hurricane Florence gets closer and closer. Governors in the Carolinas and also Virginia have issued mandatory evacuation orders affecting millions of people. In South Carolina, where the governor ordered the entire coastline to leave, state officials announced that they will reverse lanes on 4 major roads leading to the coast so people can get out quicker. President Trump approved emergency declarations in the Carolinas last night, so that allows the Federal Emergency Disaster Agency to assist with disaster relief efforts. Today, you also may see a lot of Florida power and light trucks on the roads with you, and that's because crews will be heading north from here so that they're there and they're ready to help right after the storm. WPTV News Channel 5 Stephanie Susskind is live now to tell us how our local crews are hoping to lend a helping hand. Good morning, Steph.
Good morning. We're talking about more than 500 FPL workers all meeting at different places throughout Florida today, including here at the West Palm Beach Service Plaza along the Turnpike, then to head north to help out with this power restoration effort. Now, this routine is certainly something that FPL is used to. You may remember it was this exact time last year when thousands of utility workers from across the country came to Florida to help restore power after Hurricane Irma. It's part of a mutual help situation that they have with all of the different utility companies, and that helped restore power to the more than 4 million people who lost it after Hurricane Irma here in Florida last year. So now it's FPL's turn to help. Those crews will meet here, we expect, around 9 o'clock this morning, and then they'll head out to the Carolinas, the Mid-Atlantic states, anyone who needs assistance in the wake of Hurricane Florence. Reporting live in Palm Beach County, Stephanie Susskind, WPTV News Channel 5.
All right, Stephanie, while you were sleeping, firefighters from Miami-Dade left for a new mission, 16 of them. They started their trip to South Carolina around midnight. Their primary task once they get there is going to be to focus on search and rescue efforts once that storm passes. 3 high-water vehicles will be joining their fleet to help in disaster zones. Glenn, they're saying this really could be historic for some of that area.
Yeah, it's really unfortunately reminiscent of Hurricane Harvey last year, where it came, just went right into Texas and then just stayed there and caused massive flooding for the days that followed. So not only did Texas deal with the storm surge and the initial landfall, but then those days and days of rainfall. And I think we're going to see a very similar situation, unfortunately, here for the Carolinas. Let's go city by city. Fort Pierce today looking good this morning. There's a little bit of rainfall blowing through Fort Pierce, but it really won't be until this afternoon where we see a couple of pop-up showers and thunderstorms near the coast that will slowly drift inland. So you could see a pop-up shower or storm in Fort Pierce later this afternoon. High temperature there, 88 degrees today. We've got your 7-day forecast in 5 minutes.
6:05 right now, and today marks a very somber day in America's history. Many ceremonies are planned across the nation as Americans pause to remember the September 11th terror attacks. Nearly 3,000 people died on a Tuesday morning 17 years ago today. Planes crashed into the World Trade Center, the Pentagon in Washington, and a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. A local flight attendant was on the flight that crashed into the field during those terror attacks. Friends and family will gather to honor Fort Pierce native Cece Lyles. News Channel 5's Hani Rodriguez joins us live where the ceremony will be held. Hey, Hani.
Hey, good morning, Ashley. That's right. We're at Liberty Park here in Fort Pierce. This is where the city of Fort Pierce honors and holds this memorial service for Cece Lyles and many others who lost their lives on September 11th. And as you can see right behind me, this is where a statue stands in her honor. She was born and raised here in Fort Pierce and actually served as a police officer for 6 years before becoming a flight attendant. On September 11th, she was on United Airlines Flight 93 that crashed in Pennsylvania. She's known for that chilling voicemail she left her husband describing the intent of the terrorists to take over the plane she was on board. Her family recognizes her for her courage, and a few years ago, we heard from her brother who spoke about the legacy that his sister is leaving behind.
It's great, the simple fact that people remember my sister for being a hero on 9/11. And I lost my sister, but it's also great because she's a person that's going to always be remembered.
That memorial service starts at 10 this morning, so in a few hours. And again, it is not only just to honor Lyles, but also all those who lost their lives. For now, reporting live in Fort Pierce, I'm Hani Rodriguez, WPTV News Channel 5.
As we remember September 11th, we've gone back into our archives to find some of our more memorable interviews. Officer Hernan Ramos responded to the World Trade Center following that attack. He now works for the Palm Beach County School District as a police officer. This is what he told us in 2014.
Every single one of those officers that went there wanted to do something, and we couldn't do anything. Just stand there at times and stare. That's all we could do. That day, everybody loved New York. We all came together as Americans, and that made me proud. And I want that to go on.
A Boca Raton man was in the South Tower that fateful morning, and a few years ago, we spoke to Steve Greensburg about his story.
All of a sudden, we felt the building shake a little bit. So many people lost their family members, and I'm glad my kids still have me.
There will be dozens of events across the nation today. The annual World Trade Center ceremony will include a moment of silence and remember the victims. Vice President Mike Pence plans to attend a memorial at the Pentagon in Washington. President Donald Trump plans to travel to Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where the new Tower of Voices memorial was dedicated to the victims during the weekend. 6:08 right now. The Martin County Sheriff's Office is on the search for a bank robber. Deputies believe that one man robbed 2 banks within an hour. Yesterday, this bank, United in Hobe Sound, and TD Bank in Stewart were just about 10 miles apart when this happened. Martin Hospital South and doctors' offices in Hobe Sound all went on a brief lockdown after these robberies. Deputies say the man was wearing a mask.
We've learned charges will not be filed in a deadly shooting in Lake Park that happened this past Friday. Palm Beach County deputies say the man killed Terrence Wilson Jr. And that's because they say he was trying to steal another man's car while his daughter was inside. So the owner shot Wilson in self-defense. Deputies also say the shooter had a concealed weapons permit. If you live in Boynton Beach, you may not have to budget extra money for your fire protection fees. Today, city commissioners are going to be voting to keep the annual fire assessment rate at $120. It went up $20 last year. Hope to know more soon about how a man is doing after, look at that thing right there, an 11-foot alligator bit him in Clearwater. Can you imagine? Paramedics say the guy was trying to get a Frisbee from the pond when that gator clamped down on its arm. Trappers were able to catch and remove the gator from the lake. FWC says it showed clear signs it wasn't afraid of people, so it is going to be euthanized. The man is expected to be fined.
A plan to move water from Lake Okeechobee south is now gaining bipartisan support. As part of a new water bill, both Senators Bill Nelson and Marco Rubio and Congressman Brian Mast are supporting plans for a new reservoir. They say the plan will reduce the impact of the harmful discharges by the Army Corps of Engineers. The Senate and House must approve this plan before it can move forward. In just a few hours from now, Senator Bill Nelson plans to head to the Treasure Coast, and he plans to sit down with a group of local business leaders to hear how the algae disaster has impacted their bottom line. That meeting begins at 11 o'clock this morning in Port St. Lucie. Meanwhile, the race for U.S. Senate seats, Senator Nelson's challenger, Governor Rick Scott, plans to get an update on Hurricane Florence this morning. He's meeting with the Florida Division of Emergency Management. Let's check in now with Storm Team 5 meteorologist Glenn Glazer tracking the tropics.
Well, let's try to get down to all these things here. There's a lot to talk about this morning. We have two areas of low pressure circled in orange here. This one here is not going to bother anybody. It's going to stay up in the North Atlantic. This one here is headed over toward the Texas coast over the next few days. Could be a big rainmaker. It's got a 60% chance for development there. Most computer models don't have it developing too much, but it could throw a lot of rainfall toward the Lone Star State. We've also got three named storms out there. Florence, of course. Isaac down here, which was weakened to a tropical storm this morning. And Helene, which is going to move to the North Atlantic there and not bother anybody. We'll talk about Florence first as we take a quick look at the latest track from the Hurricane Center. Winds at 140, moving west-northwest at 15, expected to make landfall Thursday night, early Friday morning as a Category 4 hurricane along the coast of the Carolinas. It's hard to say North or South Carolina just yet. Some computer models, some of the reliable ones, still have South Carolina. Some have North Carolina. Everybody in both those states should be prepared for a Category 4 hurricane. A hurricane watch has been issued all along the coast of the Carolinas already. That means that within the next in 48 hours, we could start to see tropical storm conditions and then potentially hurricane conditions along the coast there. For us here in South Florida, swells begin to arrive from Florence on late Wednesday. Dangerous surf, 7 to 9 foot seas possible Wednesday night through Friday. Also, Friday and Saturday, some drier air being pushed our way from Florence. So we could end up with a lot more sunshine for the end of the week and the beginning of the weekend. We've got your hour-by-hour forecast in 5 minutes.
12 on this Tuesday morning.
Don't forget, you can always track the tropics by downloading the free WPTV News app, and we'll send you alerts straight to your phone.
Still dealing with damage 1 year later, the place is struggling to recover after Hurricane Irma.
Plus, the viral advice you don't want to rely on the next time you get cash out of an ATM.
And all morning, we are sharing events in our area to remember the victims of 9/11. Here's one in Palm City. You can find a full list on WPTV.com.